Hey guys, Cameron with Zemium Reviews here, and I'm here to review the newest movie that literally just came out. This is the review of The Justice Society World War II. And it stars Stana Katic, Matt Bomer, Liam McIntyre, and Omid Abtahi. There are a few other people in here like Alicia Rotaru and Matthew Mercer. I'm going to talk about the plot without spoiling anything, the things that I liked, the things that I didn't like, and my overall score, so stick around. This movie stars the Flash, and he's been the Flash for quite some time, but he gets mixed up into a little bit of what we think is a time change, and he ends up in World War II amidst a whole bunch of nasty Nazis, as well as a bunch of heroes that he's never seen before. It's up to him to figure out what's going on, how does he find his way back home, and how does he get mixed up without messing up the timeline. And that is all that I'm going to say as far as the story is concerned without spoiling anything. So let me talk about some of the things that I liked. To begin this off, even though it centers around the Flash, this is a lot to do with Wonder Woman. And I gotta be honest, this is one of my favorite interpretations of Wonder Woman. Now, I'll be honest again, I really don't have a version of Wonder Woman that I dislike. I like her interpretation in live action. I like her interpretation in the Justice League cartoon. I like her interpretation here. There isn't really a bad interpretation of Wonder Woman that I can think of at this moment. There probably is, but it's not coming to mind. And this is no exception. Her fight scenes are fantastic, especially for an animated movie. And I actually really liked the dialect that she has in this movie. I think it fit the character, and I really like how it's been kind of going with this kind of exotic tale, so to speak. You know, it's something. I can't say that Wonder Woman is one of my favorite characters, but she quite honestly might be one of my favorite DC characters. I'm a Marvel head, but that does not mean that I discriminate against good DC characters. This is one of them. And then going back to the Flash that I mentioned before, Flash is good in this. He's no Wonder Woman, but he does do very well. At times, he doesn't feel like he's the brightest bulb in the box, the sharpest tool in the shed. Those are some things that I definitely like. And there are other characters in this too. So this introduces an entire Justice Society, not just Wonder Woman and not just Flash, but you have a whole cast of characters. You've got Black Canary, Hourman, Hawkman, and their version of the Flash, who is Jay Garrick. With the exception of Wonder Woman, I have mixed feelings about all these characters. Hourman is in the same camp, but there's something about Hourman that I find intriguing. So with the way that his powers work, he's a scientist, and he created a serum that gives him, increased strength and speed and agility and all this stuff, but only for the span of an hour within a 24-hour day. And I found that this character reminded me of the original Hank McCoy in the X-Men before he got his blue fur. Super smart, he has the strength and agility, but he's kind of like stunted growth in comparison to everybody else. I mean, think of the X-Men, you got this guy who has lasers coming out of his eyes, and you've got a psychic, and you've got somebody who can literally bring upon the next ice age. And then you've got this guy who's super smart, and he's kind of strong, and he's kind of fast. And that's what I felt like with Hourman. That's not to say that I didn't like him, but I just felt like he was given so much less to do. And he even acknowledges that he's like, I'm no good to you 23 hours out of the day, which I disagree with, but he's not given as much to contribute as everybody else. And that, yeah. So I kind of talked about the characters that we're introduced to in the trailers. And now I'm going to talk about the things that I didn't like. And I hate to say that there was a bunch, but there was. And it starts off with the credits. I know that seems really nitpicky, But I'm looking at the credits as it's going because I'm like, okay, let's see what's going on. And they spoil a huge thing in the credits. It was definitely something that I really disliked for the budget. It kind of ticked me off that I wasn't left to be surprised later on. Another thing that I disliked, and this goes into the plot, so I can't go into detail. This movie suffers from a very unfocused plot. The story, whenever you're into the first 45 minutes of it, you have a good idea of what's going on. It seems pretty focused. And then around the 45-minute mark, there's kind of a curveball thrown. And the curveball could be cool. It could be something good. But they focused on that curveball and then left the original 45 minutes kind of out. And we never truly get back to Justice Society versus Nazis versus the Germans. And I won't give away what that is, but I felt like that's the whole reason for this movie, to give us that story. And whenever we were getting that story, and I was like, this is good, I like it so far. And then they focused totally on the curveball. And I went from liking the movie to not really liking the movie. The longer that they focused on this surprise element, the less that I enjoyed myself. And then at the very end, there is an ex machina. Now, this ex machina was set up earlier in the movie, but then is never referred back to. It looks like it's seemingly completely abandoned. Now, I really have mixed feelings about this because whereas I like it, I don't like it. If you're going to have this be the final whatever that happens in your movie, I would like there to be more time focused on it in the story, which they didn't do. Another thing, and this may be my biggest gripe, there's a character in this movie called the Advisor. I think that's the only thing that they call this character. He is the most underrepresented. We know almost next to nothing about this character. We get a little bit, but this person apparently has powers, and we don't know who he is, where he came from. I tried to do a little bit of digging, not a deep dive, and I was like, I have no clue who this clown is. And for him to be so important to the story, yet we have so little done with his character, it kind of ticked me off. For me, a story has to be built properly. You can have some cool visuals from The Flash or from Wonder Woman, and that's great. But if your story is flimsy and if you have characters that are paper thin, that you don't set up, that feel like they're just kind of half thrown in there, that's going to piss me off. And that's kind of how I felt, because this is a new movie, which means that it's not available just on any old streaming service. You have to purchase it. It's pay-per-view. And for you to have characters that you don't set up properly, yeah, I'm going to feel a little heated. I'm not going to feel all right, okay? If you're a Justice Society fan, if you're a fan of superheroes in that war aesthetic, this may be up your alley. But the last 30 minutes of it, something wasn't right. They wanted to throw in a surprise, but the surprise, in my opinion, kind of worn out its welcome, and it doesn't work by itself. So without spoiling anything, this was a bigger miss for me than a lot of other DC animated movies that I've seen. And I've seen pretty much not every one of them, but I've seen the majority of them. So if I have to go into it and give a score, to be completely honest, I think a 52 may be in order. And the story is what hurts the most. Story becomes distracted about halfway through the movie and it never fully recovers. You've got characters that have enough to do and they're likable to a point, but they really aren't dived into as deeply as you get with Wonder Woman. Now, Wonder Woman is the star of this movie. Make no mistake, Flash is the vehicle, Wonder Woman is the star. That's not to say she's the only big superhero in this movie, but thanks to the opening credits, that gets spoiled for you right away. Also, there are characters in this that are almost completely meaningless, and there's more than one, even though they have plenty to do in the story. Repercussions and things that happen to them don't make a bit of sense or difference, and those are characters that will hurt your story in the long run. The acting was decent enough, but there wasn't really anything that really caught me by a pleasant surprise other than the Wonder Woman portrayal. So to be perfectly honest, if you do want to watch this, but you're not sure whether or not you should spend the $20 to rent it, wait for it on HBO Max if you have it. Because if you spend $20 to get this, you're going to be a little bit upset. Kind of like me. So that's my review of Justice Society World War II. Let me know what you thought about it if you've seen it in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel and share this with your friends. As always, this is Cameron with CBM Reviews. We'll see you next time.